Welcome to this presentation on P's body paragraph. And while I am going to be talking about P's in terms of like P's and P pods, we're using that as a metaphor for paragraphs because paragraphs like P pods have these outer shells that hold everything together, and then the yumminess is on the inside. And P's also stands for the parts of the body paragraph: point, evidence, analysis, and summary. And this method for writing body paragraphs is really good practice for how we expect arguments to be made in academia. We expect them to happen in a certain way, and this is a good reminder of how to be giving academic arguments and how to be including your evidence, because that's one of the harder things to do in writing is figure out how to incorporate evidence effectively. So let's talk about our metaphor here. So P's paragraph: point, evidence, analysis, summary. The top part of the P shell, that is the point. The summary is the other side of the P pod. Those two parts hold the unit together. And then in the middle, you get evidence and analysis. And together, they make a strong body paragraph. So let's talk about what maybe that looks like first in an actual like paragraph setup. This may look more like a body paragraph. So you have the point at the very top, like a topic sentence. And in the middle, you have all of that good stuff, the evidence and analysis. And then at the end, you remind us of what this all was about with a summary or a summary sentence. So you can have a single point of evidence, a single piece of analysis, but you can have as many pieces as you need in there. Evidence analysis. You'll notice that what's important is that kind of pattern that you do both things, that you have evidence and analysis. We're usually actually better at giving evidence, but we forget to do analysis. So if you remember you need both parts and you need them together, you'll be ahead of the game. So the point. The point is at the very beginning of a body paragraph. You start a body paragraph with the point of it. We talk about this as a topic sentence, and this must be your idea and match the whole paragraph. So don't start with a quote. If you're starting a paragraph with a quote, you have a really good hint that something didn't go right because you know that it isn't your idea. So you have to back up and tell us the point of it all before you throw in any evidence. In this example, we have the topic sentence and then an elaboration on the point made in the topic sentence. Sometimes the point is only one sentence long. Sometimes the point is more complicated and you have to explain it before you move on to evidence. Once you get to the evidence, I have that highlighted in green. The evidence is to support your point. It could be data, personal experience, quotations, or other forms of evidence from sources. And when you give evidence, it's very important to make it clear where the evidence came from, whether that is from your own experience or from a source. And if it's from a source, you must cite that source. So the first piece of evidence we have in this paragraph is a quotation. And then later on, we have another piece of evidence in the form of a quotation from the same author. I blew up the first quotation so you could see what was going on in there. I want you to notice that I didn't just start that, or actually the author didn't just start that sentence with the quotation. The author introduced who the author was and gave us some information about that author. The reason for doing that is it adds credibility to the author. It builds your ethos. It builds the author's ethos. And because you're using this awesome person who we should trust, it builds trust in you. This next little part is simply a transition to the quotation. And what's nice about it is it further highlighted that it was someone else's ideas and words, because it's very important to give credit where credit's due in academic writing. So we like to include all of these little moves in there that make it very clear when it's somebody else's ideas, and that helps us avoid plagiarism. All right, so the next part, analysis. We're starting to get really colorful here. The pink parts are the analysis, and that's, I think, the part that some people find hardest. So the more you do it, the easier it will get. And I think what happens is we like to treat evidence like a big mic drop. We throw evidence in the room and are like, and that was it, wha-bam, and then walk out very dramatically. And that's not how we like to provide evidence, or we expect to get evidence in an academic setting. You have to give the evidence, and then it's the writer's job to show the reader what they need to understand from the evidence. This could be explaining the evidence. Often it means connecting the evidence to the point you're making in the paragraph and the point you're making in your overall argument. And you'll notice, because we had two pieces of evidence, we had to have two pieces of analysis. And their analysis is both kind of connecting the quotation to the larger point that they were making, and then they use that evidence to build onto, they're building the point with it. And then the summary. Don't forget the last little bit. At the end of a paragraph, you need a bit to remind us why all of this matters, why the evidence and analysis matters, and connect it back to the point you were making in this whole paragraph. And usually it ends with a summary sentence. Sometimes the summary is more than one sentence. Sometimes you can get away with it just being the summary sentence itself. So that's a brief overview of P's. Please reach out if you have any questions.